Ο κύριος Rolf Strauch είναι μέλος του Διοικητικού Συμβουλίου του ESM, είναι αρμόδιος για θέματα οικονομικής στρατηγικής πολιτικής και τραπεζικής στο ESM και στο EFSF, στα οποία προσχώρησε το 2010. Είναι υπεύθυνος για την οικονομική και χρηματοοικονομική ανάλυση και πολιτικές για το στρατηγικό προσανατολισμό και επίβλεψη του έργου του ESM και του EFSF. Εκπροσωπεί τον ESM και τον EFSF σε ευρωπαϊκά φόρουμ, διαπραγματεύεται με τα κράτη-μέλη και χειρίζεται τις σχέσεις με τους οργανισμούς αξιολόγησης πιστοληπτικής ικανότητας. Πριν από αυτό, ο κύριος Στράουχ εργάστηκε στην Ευρωπαϊκή Κεντρική Τράπεζα από το 2000 έως το 2010 στη Γενική Διεύθυνση Οικονομικών για φορολογικές, νομισματικές και διαρθρωτικές πολιτικές. Ο κύριος Στράουχ κατέχει PhD στα οικονομικά από το Πανεπιστήμιο της Βόνης. Mr. Strauch, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a real pleasure for me to be addressing you here at the General Assembly of CEF, the Hellenic Federation of Enterprises. Let me first congratulate you for your 110th anniversary. Europe is also celebrating a number of decisive historic events this year, though your organization has been around for almost double as long as the process of European unification. The Treaty of Rome was signed 60 years ago, which created the common market, while the Maastricht Treaty was signed 25 years ago, creating the basis for economic and monetary union. The signing of the two documents were landmark moments in European history. They reflect political unity and form the basis for economic integration and the many benefits this brings. I think today, therefore, this event offers an opportunity to reflect on European integration, on what it means for Greece, and of the role of Greece in an integrated Europe. The CEF forcefully argues that Greece should turn the page and leave the crisis behind. It should move on towards economic normality outside a program, and I wholeheartedly agree. It will not be an easy process at all, that we know, but everyone wants to get Greece back on a healthy growth track, for which would benefit every Greek citizen. So let me use my time to explain how the ESM helps in providing the most significant form of financial solidarity available in Europe. The EU is an unprecedented example of international cooperation, and it's also extremely successful. If you look at it, its members have not seen war for more than 70 years now, a period of peace longer than any other in recent history. When the Berlin Wall fell, the EU offered countries emerging from communist rule an immediate and obvious alliance, and that has served all of us extremely well. The EU has established a firm basis of human rights and citizens' protection, and in 2012, the EU was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for helping to promote international cooperation and peace. Beyond these impressive political achievements, the EU has sought and actually succeeded in being an open economy from the start. It is the largest trading bloc of the world. The four freedoms of movement, of capital, labor, services, and goods have been a source of growth and employment. Outside this bloc, countries would lose significance and lack bargaining power in the view of the emergence of the new economic superpowers, China and India. If you look through history, the European economy represented 32% of the global economy in 1970, but that share now stands only at 23%, and by 2050 it is projected to be just 9%. So even large countries like Germany and France will appear tiny on a global scale by then. So there's good reason to keep the EU and work for it. Launching a common currency was a natural step for a number of countries once the single market had existed for some time. You, as entrepreneurs, you feel the benefits of a stable currency and lack of exchange rate risk every day. Across Europe, countries are saving foreign exchange costs for about 20 to 25 billion each year. Cross-border trade has benefited, price stability, price transparency improved, and that leads to greater competition, which, as we know from economics theory, results in larger productivity gains and eventually in more growth. Or to put it in plain English, it leads to better and cheaper products, and it creates a higher living standard for people. At the same time, we must be honest, by no means has the euro area worked seamlessly. The crisis brought to light a number of design flaws in the institutional and policy framework underlying the single currency. Actually, when the Maastricht Treaty was signed, it had been deemed impossible that a member of the euro area would lose market access, and this is what actually happened in Greece and in other countries. To keep the euro together, Europe needed to rapidly set up a lender of last resort for sovereigns. As you know, this led first to the establishment of a temporary mechanism, the European Financial Stability Facility, and then in 2012 to the creation of the European Stability Mechanism. But there are other important lessons that Europe drew from the crisis. Firstly, countries did their homework, something that you have certainly witnessed very closely here in Greece. They put their fiscal house in order and adjusted macroeconomic policies. Budget gaps have now been tightened and are on a much more sustainable level across the Eurozone. And if you look at it internationally, they are also below the US in the aggregate. Equally important, competitiveness has returned in program countries, while current account deficits that emerged in the run-up to the crisis have largely disappeared. Actually, the countries that conducted programs implemented more structural reforms to address their economic and financial weaknesses than any other country in the world. And that evidence comes from both the OECD for the industrialized countries as well as from the World Bank on a global scale, and it's important to recognize. On top of these national efforts, there is stronger and broader policy coordination at the European level. In this respect, the new macroeconomic imbalance procedure is an important new tool and another very important new step that actually presents a quantum leap in terms of a common market, a common banking market, is banking union, which saw the establishment of the single supervisory mechanism and a single resolution mechanism. Both important transfers of power to the supranational level in order to make the common market work better. With these changes, the monetary union is on a more stable footing than before the crisis, and the euro area economy is more resilient. And actually it is performing well. We are in a robust recovery. The crisis has strengthened Europe, not weakened it. Many of you have lived through the crisis in this country, which was certainly the hardest hit by the crisis. So let me spend the remainder of my time on how to drive progress in Greece. The current debate about Greece focuses on debt relief, and that is something I think that should change. And there are two reasons for that. Firstly, because Greece has received very substantive debt relief already in the past. It is still getting it, and it may well continue to do so in the future, and I will come to that in a minute. But I think more importantly, and you will understand this, the benefits of economic reform to the Greek economy and program ownership are now a higher priority than debt relief. Former program countries such as Spain and Ireland are on the top of the growth league in Europe. Portugal and Cyprus are doing well. The common denominator of these success stories is policy reform. That is what brought them from the bottom to the top. And this should also be the prospect for Greece. Let me make this point clearer, recurring to Greece's experience, but in a somewhat different context. You will remember, and probably even much better than I do, the big surprise when Greece won the Euro 2004 football championship. One of the winning team members, Takis Fissas, said the following: "We did not have Zidane or Simão or Cristiano Ronaldo. The only we had was hard work, sacrifice, determination, and that family spirit." So it wasn't just magic or pure luck to make it to the top, but it was hard work, it was team spirit, cohesion, and it was determination, a vision. What happened then is not impossible for Greece now. And if you look at it, several projections show that growth rates are expected to be above the euro area average next year, in line with other countries that received ESM assistance. In this respect, I also have to say I commend your government, after a very, very difficult initial year, to have taken decisive steps to contribute to this. Let me talk a bit about the strategy that would allow the Greek team, in a broader sense, that would allow Greece to win that match as well. Taxation is an important factor to strengthen competitiveness and to reinvigorate investment. Here there's room for improvement. You know, and it's evident when you look at the international evidence, that nominal tax rates in Greece are above the euro area average, but tax returns are not. This is because the tax collection effort still has gaps, and also there are huge tax arrears in the private sector. So I think it is welcome that Greece is strengthening its tax administration, which will help to lower the nominal rates and more evenly to share the burden. This is an area where program ownership is particularly important. Greece cannot make it to the top if the tax system punishes the honest taxpayer. And I'm sure that from your everyday experience, you will agree with this. Another issue are non-wage labor costs, which remain high by European standards. With the new tax and pension reforms that have been agreed, this should change further. And at the same time, the compensatory benefit measures agreed and the rollout of the general minimum income scheme should lead to more equitable social benefit systems. Other costs for companies remain high because the remaining regulation and inefficiencies in the energy sector and high energy prices, because of still high contract enforcement costs and still existing red tape. The program aims to lower these costs and reduce regulation and support privatization. Among others, we do this through the creation of the Privatization Fund, the Hellenic Corporation of Assets and Privatization, HCAP. Again, this is an area where I would welcome strong implementation to ensure a sustainable recovery in the country. This morning, I actually met the CEO of HCAP to talk with her about the strategy and also to reassure her of the full support that she has from our side. Finally, let me say a few words on the Greek banking sector. Like I said before, the euro area banking sector is much safer as a whole because of the establishment of banking union. Actually, what led to the creation of it was the difference in financing costs, and those have diminished and financing costs have converged. In this context, the Greek banking sector is also improving after last year's recapitalization. However, it remains fragile. Lending activities remain subdued, and that needs to improve. There are reasons for this and elements that need to change. Financing conditions should normalize, but there is still a high reliance on the ECB's ELA, which is relatively expensive. And another important priority is to address the non-performing loans in order to free up capital and capacity for lending. This would allow banks to start providing credit again so that business can get the cash that you need to invest and to operate. The measures agreed between Greece and the European institutions and the IMF recently during the second review address those issues. And I think strong program ownership along these priorities is what Greece can do to put the country on a better footing. From our side as ESM, we will continue to look at the debt burden because sustainable financing conditions are needed for Greece to regain investor confidence and investment you need. But hopefully I can give you a different perspective on the issue than what you would normally read in the papers. You should be aware that Greece has benefited and continues to be a beneficiary of the world's biggest ever debt restructuring deal in 2012. At that time, private sector creditors took a 53% haircut on virtually all of its debt holdings, which amounted to 107 billion euro. This was a very difficult decision at the time, but eventually helped Greece to regain sustainability. This on top was matched by measures reducing the net present value of public sector debt by 40% of the Greek economy, which is a big economic gain. Greece also is benefiting from the favorable lending conditions of the ESM and the EFSF. This is saving the Greek budget 10 billion euro each year, or close to 6% of its GDP, when we compare what you pay for the loans of EFSF and ESM as to market financing. This additional fiscal space amounts to more than 2,200 euro per household and more than 14,100 euro per company. These savings are based on the ESM's strong credit rating, which is backed actually by the capital of our shareholders. And we pass that on to you. Because it's the capital of euro area countries, and there is this benefit of the financing conditions, we think that these savings, therefore, are a strong sign of European solidarity. On top of these significant efforts that already happened and are ongoing, the Eurogroup last year pledged a further easing of lending conditions if needed and if certain conditions are met. These are the three sets of measures, those that will be implemented in the short term, there are medium-term measures, and possibly even long-term measures. At this stage, and this is ongoing, the staff at the ESM is implementing the first set of measures, and those are estimated to reduce Greece's gross financing needs by 5 percentage points of GDP and the debt stock by 20 percentage points of GDP by 2060. So this is debt relief that is ongoing and that you are receiving. The set of medium-term measures have also been agreed, and they will become available if it turns out that Greece's debt is still not sustainable at the end of the current program in August 2018, and the program is fully implemented. Finally, the long-term measures are there as a safeguard to ensure debt sustainability at a later stage if the medium-term measures eventually turn out not to be sufficient, and if Greece follows the European fiscal framework. In summary, I think Europe has made abundantly clear that it will stand by Greece today, tomorrow, and in the future. Europe and Greece are long-term partners, and there can be no doubt about that. As to the current state of the negotiations, let me say only the following. As you know, Greece needs the next ESM disbursement to cover the debt payments in July without creating new shortages in other areas. There can be no disbursement without Greece's compliance with the prior action list, and this includes also the points I made before. And therefore, I think the best Greece can do is focusing on this element. In turn, the ESM stands ready to prepare the disbursement once all conditions are met, including the involvement of national parliaments and the final decisions of our governing bodies. So it's certainly not too late to unlock the disbursement in June, but also Greece needs to act swiftly. Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude, and I thank for your attention. Europe has grown closer together economically and politically over the last decades. And despite the crisis, it remains a simple truth. The euro is good for Europe and its citizens. Europe has worked very hard in the past 7 years to assist Greece in getting its house in order. Part of these efforts was substantial and ongoing debt relief. Greece, in turn, has come a long way to make it to the top, hopefully. And this is not because only of the help, but primarily because of its policy reforms till 2010. For Greece to go on, it is of utmost importance that authorities really commit to continue their journey towards a modern economy and a sustainable recovery. It is only then that the Greek economy can realize its full potential, and that driven by businesses like yours and for the benefits of its citizens. Thank you.